all the audience out there who was in 20 seconds. This is it. Okay, so here we go. All right, fingers crossed it's coming into this page. Yes, we're on. Okay, we are now live. Hello there, everyone. It is Hadi Nakri. Thank you for joining me today again on this page and being a part of this group. So it's grown quite rapidly, and everyone who's come on here, thank you so much for being a part of it. Today is part of my special side-by-side live. First of all, take the glasses off. It is with our independent financial advisor, our resident independent financial advisor, Paul Short, and Paul's going to be discussing pensions today. We're all in lockdown at this moment in time. So shout out to all the nurses, doctors, key workers out there who are out there working on our behalf. But while we're in lockdown, it gives us all a chance to reflect and gives us a bit of a time to say, you know what, I need to review this. But I don't have a full, complete understanding of what I'm reviewing. And that's why I thought I'll bring on Paul Short. So Paul, please introduce yourself. Where are you from? Tell us about yourself.
Adi, a big thank you for having me today, and a pleasure for to everyone. Thank you very much for everyone listening in, but also a pleasure for dragging me into the modern world and into this sort of online lifestyle. I've been doing this job now for 22 years, and I've all done it in such a old-fashioned way by putting my suit and tie on and traveling around, seeing people giving me my card. Because of the lockdown, I've been forced to learn how to communicate with clients via the internet and that type of thing. And I was completely unaware about being able to help and educate others via something like this Facebook Live group. So a big thank you for having me. And good evening to everybody. I'm Paul Shorten. I've been a financial advisor for 22 years. I can assure you I do have a personality, but I am what's called an independent financial advisor. It means others, but also facilitate business and assist with recommendations across the entire financial sphere. Okay, but today, I believe, Hattie, we're going to be focusing on a very interesting topic for me, but not necessarily for viewers. Hopefully I'm going to make it more interesting, but the topic of pensions.
Yeah, and again, there's a lot of things about pensions where there are people who hold on to some of the old values and old news about pensions. And I think this is an important area because ultimately, you know, we all like to think that we're going to be young, fit and healthy for a long period of time, but time does go on, and ultimately we will get to the point whereby retirement does happen. So will people be in that position that retirement is going to be absolutely fine for them, or will they, you know, be thinking, oh, I'm going to have to start working during their retirement era? So what I want to do is make sure that more people take control, which is what pensions are allowing people to do now. You know, but again, you can explain how that's actually happened.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so it's about taking control of your retirement, and it's not necessarily that difficult if someone assists you in putting that financial plan in place. But there's various different elements to it. I mean, if we roll back in time, it used to be quite a simplistic case that people would go to work, they'd get a good job, and then they'd stay at that employer for many years. Okay, so you'll get like maybe Doris in the post room, and she'll be happy. She's worked there for 30 plus years. But why were the people happy? What were they aiming for? And what they were doing, it wasn't just a job security, but what they were aiming for was something which was actually called a final salary pension. And it was a guaranteed income an individual would get for work in exchange for an employer for a certain period of time at a set age. They would get a guaranteed income which increased in line with inflation, which is the price of whatever you want to buy in retirement, slippers, beans, whatever. it would increase in line with that, and they'd have that for life. Okay, so the whole structure of the world was completely different because the focus was on doing well at school, getting a property, and getting yourself a stable job. Okay, now we know the world's completely changed now, but in modern times, people are working remotely. There's working in the self-employed sense. The world's very different. But one of the key changing factors was the sudden decline in these types of pensions, which you would get from your employer, which provided you with that set income for life. Okay, and they became expensive because the employer needed to fund this income. And on their balance sheets, they looked at it and they thought to themselves, okay, this is too much of an expense for the company going forward. We need to start to limit this down. So what happened was they actually set up new employees on a different type of pension structure. There's one part of it, okay? Now, I personally missed this by 1 year, and I was on a new pension structure when I was at the employer. And that's when you really need to take things into your own hands, because if you haven't got the finance from your employer anymore, and I doubt many people would have that, then you're in the world of retirement. It's not a guaranteed income. It's a pot of money, which the more you spend, the quicker it erodes. So things have become far more complex.
As you was freezing a little bit there, I'll just reiterate to the people who are listening. And guys, if you feel like you want to pose any questions, feel free, just drop a question in there. We're here to help. So basically, the final salary pension would build up a pot of money that will last throughout your entire lifetime when you hit retirement. But as they became more expensive, it changed to a new pension scheme where, although you have more control, it still was money, and ultimately there's a limit to that pot of money. Will I be right in saying that? So if you spend it too quickly, the pot will run out.
Correct. Yeah. And it's what's happened as well is it's made people need to think a lot more about their retirement, because before they didn't really need to necessarily think. You just work for the employer, then you would look at your statement and understand how much you're going to get each month until you passed away. But now it's if you wanted to save for your pension provisions, then you've only got the state pension to look forward to. Okay, which is it's what, £168 is sort of to increase fractionally.
Nowhere near enough.
It's nowhere near enough for someone to stay lifestyle, which they may be obviously what would share be living now. Another element to it as well is the fact that they're continuously increasing the age that you can take the state pension. I mean, but I want to take it at our age, and I'm a 42-year-old male, but I'll be getting a state pension at 68 for about 170 something pounds a month in today's money, and that would be inflation linked. So that's great. I mean, at least I'm being given something. But we need to be alongside that. And it could be your own savings. It could be things like that. And that would be an area to touch on. I mean, a good question would be, right, we know we need to build some provisions in order to live our life in retirement alongside the state pension. Why don't we just go and pop some money into the bank? Okay, so that's one reason. Now, what you've got to remember, and this is the core part of pension planning, which may actually make it exciting for people when you understand this, is to fund your retirement as well. So there's not so much reliance on the state pension. So what happens is when you put money into a pension, they're actually kind enough to give you something called tax relief. Okay, so simplistically, if I was to put £80 into a pension every month, immediately I would get an uplift of 20% tax relief. So I'd get £100 going in. Okay.
Okay.
But depending on your tax rate, you get tax relief going in as well. So as you're putting money into the pension, you're getting a pot of money. You're building up a pot of money, but you're also getting the additional tax relief. So as time goes on, the compounding of it gives you quite surprisingly a nice pot of income in retirement for potentially a monthly amount, which may go unnoticed once you get into the hang of funding a pension.
And that's a key thing. So hence why it's always good to have reviews consistently. You know,
correct.
Pension is, you know, it's not like any other product out there. You do need to review it because again, where's the pension money going into? The premiums are going into places where it's going to be safeguarded, but some of it's going to be put into investments so they can gear up to make sure that there's enough money in the pension pot. And that's why.
Correct.
You know,
now that's an interesting point because what you'll get is we touched on working for an employer, and okay, so you haven't been completely removed because what you'll get from an employer now, as long as you're working for somebody not self-employed, that type of scenario, is they'll give you a pension, but it'd be very, very basic.
Yeah.
Okay. So the investment you're describing within it, because you've got a pension layer, and then you've got an investment within it. Now, this could get quite detailed, but I'm happy to spend time with anybody, telephone, email correspondence. If you want to leave any messages or contact me directly, I'm happy to run through this with you as many times as you wish. But the concept is the pension with an employer is a very simple structure where into it, you get tax relief, but the employer would also put a certain percentage in to match your contribution as well. And sometimes they're generous and give slightly more. So already there, you've got a facility where you're building up a pot of money and your employer's giving you some money as well. As you get closer to retirement, this becomes exceptionally important because the basic type of pension an employer would be able to provide for you isn't necessarily going to give you the investment mechanisms you need to sustain that money in retirement. All right. So an employer pension would just follow the market index. So the market goes up, it would follow the market. The market goes down, it would follow the market down.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, the other option is if you were to set up if you were self-employed or if you were happy with your pension with your employer, but you thought, okay, I want something else alongside it as well. You could set up what's called a personal pension. This could be more of an advanced structure. And within here, you'll get access to lots of different things to invest in. And this could range from different cash accounts, gold, if you wanted, property investments, stocks and shares. And at that stage, you could bring in a financial advisor who would review this with you on a yearly basis to make sure it's growing appropriately. But also what's very, very important is if you're drawing close to retirement, to have that conversation with a financial advisor, because now you need to start to stabilize that investment so that when the markets drop, your drop's being cushioned. Because you don't.
That's the big thing. That right there, when the market, that right there is the big thing, because it's market related. You know, when the markets drop, when they rise, hence why it's always good to have a review. And right now, we're seeing what's happening in the market at the moment. It's in a very volatile state. If anything, these are the best times to check things out, pull your paperwork out. Who do you take pensions with? Is your pension pot going to provide you with the lifestyle that you need in retirement, even if it's just you and your spouse living together and you downsize? You know, from a mortgage advisor perspective, I think these are also very useful things to look into now. Again, it's all about disposable income. I appreciate that. More than anyone else, there's still a lot of people out there that have interest-only mortgages that are relying upon their pension pots that will pay out a tax-free lump sum to pay off the pension. Is that still the case with pensions, that you can get a tax-free lump sum at 25%? Or had the government taken that away? Because I know when George Osborne was Chancellor, he done something with annuities that really just went against all the life companies. I can't remember exactly what he done.
It was a very hot topic. You can, which is a good thing. You're saving up your pots of money, and then when 2015 they reduced the age you can access the pot of money. So when you get to age 55, you can take your money out of your pension if you wanted. Okay, now there's certain layers to this, and people who might not necessarily be able to seek financial advice, many people actually did this. So unadvised clients took all the money out of their pension because they thought, it's my only opportunity to get the money, which is mine, and they felt as if it was taken from them. Now, in reality, keeping your money in a pension is that like gold dust. It's the most tax efficient place to hold as much of your assets as possible. Okay, now you can take money out of it from age 55, and you can take 25% of your money out,
right,
completely taxed. Will be taxed at your highest marginal tax rate. Okay,
right. But
you can, with some clever planning, you can stage this. You could bring into the mix what income requirements you have, what other sources of income you have and savings you have, and with a good financial planner and some of the kit they have available, you'll be able to put an entire plan in place which would say, look, my pot of money is going to sustain and last for this period of time. And that's something you would do on an ongoing basis. Okay. Now, what's good about that is we talked about the pension being gold dust, but that way, rather than stripping money out of a place which is most tax efficient, you can build a retirement plan with other resources and the pension. Okay. Because really, the end goal would be to have sustained a wonderful retirement, but to have a pension. And why would that be?
Sorry, say that again.
Because
the end goal should be
you don't pay
a wonderful retirement. You said something there, but you
felt the end goal. Yes, fine. I'm sorry. I think with the current crisis, everyone seems to be using the internet a lot, so it seems to have staggered down. But
don't worry, I blame everyone.
The end goal would be to sustain a great lifestyle in retirement, but also make sure that somewhere that can be passed down to the people you love when you pass away without the tax man having a bite of the cherry. So
which is
if you were to leave all your money in your bank account, if you were to leave all your money in your bank account or potentially in property and other places and other investments, then over a certain limit, you would pay 40% tax on this. But the pension's wonderful because it's not included in that calculation. So also pension down to anyone you want in anyone you want, whether it's the entire pension or a certain percentage of that pension, you can pass that down to anyone upon death, still within the pension. So the recipient gets a mini pension. Very interesting planning.
Yeah, because again,
so then if we take a step back,
I mean, sorry, I'll give it a shot. I remember one of the myths of pensions was that if a person passes away, their pension goes with them as well. They can't really pass it on. They may be able to pass a certain amount on, like, $1 or $2 grand, but that's it. The pension dies with them. Now, from what you're saying, that's not the case anymore, and that's actually a good thing.
No, it's not. That's a really good thing, and that's why pensions have now formed a core part of the financial planning process I put in place for clients. If we take a step right back to what we talked about in the days when you say to go to work, stay in that job, that type of lifestyle, the pension that you would work for, when you pass away, it's gone. If you were lucky, 50% of it may pay to your spouse for a short period of time, right? But with the pension reforms, which meant you could access a pension from age 55, it changed the whole landscape completely. All right, people went crazy. People just went, right, I want money out, and the whole pension, like pulling out £500,000 showing in their bank account, okay, because they felt as if they had access to their money. What we need to get our heads around is a pension is like a bank account, okay? It is a superior bank account because it's got tax efficiencies, which are superior to your usual bank account.
Yeah.
But also, upon death, it can be passed down outside of your estate without having to pay that tax. It's a very, very powerful mechanism. And then if you put on top of that the fact that you can keep putting money into it as well up until age 75, then we've got something really powerful here. Okay?
That is fascinating. And the reason why I say that is fascinating, again, from a mortgage advisor perspective, we are getting more and more people working longer. Their retirement ages are going further and further, hence why we're extending the term. The old adage of 25 years and I'll pay off the mortgage on retirement, on a repayment basis, that seems to be dying out again. It seems to be, I want interest only. I want more interest only mortgages because I know once I build up my pot of money from somewhere else, you'll be able to pay off the mortgage. Yeah, because it will be the speed of how quick you can accrue the pension pot in comparison to repaying the mortgage. Personally, again, from my perspective as a mortgage advisor, the gold standard is always, if you can, do a repayment mortgage, and if you can make an overpayment into the mortgage to pay off your mortgage quicker, even better. Once that mortgage is paid off faster, then of course you can put all that money into whatever investment you want to put it into. You can do whatever you want. My perspective. Again, other financial advisors have a completely different advice guiding them. And again, it's always good for any client to have more than one, meeting with a financial advisor because circumstances change.
Most definitely. I mean, I'm not young, but in the financial advisor world, I am young, but it doesn't mean that I haven't been doing it for long. So I've been doing it for 22 years. I'm 42, but most financial advisors are the bulk of financial advisors are usually late 50s, coming on 60 now. So they've seen many different styles of planning. And sometimes, I mean, I might be stuck in my ways with areas, but mine might be slightly more modern. But I've really encompassed the fact of the pension reforms and the ability to use the pension plan as a superior bank account for inheritance tax efficiencies, for fantastic investment growth if it's being managed each year, but also just for excessive amounts of just free money, so pre-taxfully. I mean, if you think about if you get close to 55, right? So, I mean, this is quite a common piece of planning. I mean, you go to the bank and they've got a nice little picture in the window and it says, come and get our ISA. Come in and buy the ISA at the bank, right? So sometimes I think to myself, I would never do it because obviously we've had to do different exam qualifications and everyone's just doing their own thing. But I mean, I wonder, maybe I should go into this bank and actually ask the guy who's selling this ISA why he thinks I should buy it, especially when it's like a cash ISA or something and they're saying, come and buy it. It's like, because it's advertised everywhere, people think that it's something you've just got to do. Now, that's all right if you're young or younger, but if you were 53 and you said, "Oh, well, I tell you, I'm very good with my finances. I put £20,000 into my ISA every year." Oh, well done. That's really good. But let me tell you about something more exciting. Why don't you put £20,000 into your pension? Yeah. And then get a minimum of 20% uplift, maybe 45% uplift, free money. Yeah.
And again, these are the things that people
Which
don't
you can
know.
get.
People don't know this.
It's amazing.
Because, like what you said, advertising and marketing has just been intense and focused on ISAs.
Well,
ISAs was a big thing. Savings was a big thing.
Yeah. Now this leads to the fact that a lot of the things people see would be when they if we were allowed out, wandering around the high street and that type of thing. So it's very rare you would see a fully independent financial advisor with a shop front where people come in on a regular basis. So what you see is like a bank. Yeah. Now they are restricted to the amount of financial products they can sell, and because of that, you're never going to go to a bank to take your money out and then suddenly see a poster in the window which describes obtaining up to 45% tax relief going into a pension. Yeah, because they're not going to have that diagram outside because they can't facilitate it. So they're going to say, let's have an ISA, and wow, check out this rate. It's 1.4%.
Brilliant. And on top of that, even liquefying an ISA is more headache than anything. I've seen guys get absolutely frustrated in a bank when they try and get their money out from an ISA, because again, there's a lot of restrictions as well. The small print. In order for you to earn certain interests and so on and so forth, you have to jump through so many hoops.
Yeah, you do. But if you go into a world of an investment ISA, it's a lot clearer, because you can have a financial planner assisting you, and you'll be looking into realms of having like between 5 or you've got to be careful when I talk about investment returns here for compliance purposes. They're not guarantees, but the market moves up and down, and if you look at the time period over a period of time, it's on a increase. So you'd see like ranges between like 5 and 10%. Now, this is a bit of a puzzle with a bank, and then they're doing a good thing, because for tax, they're focusing on the tax efficiencies, right? They're saying you've got a bank account here, and it earns this much interest, and it's good that they're telling people to go into the ISA, but it's very, very primitive planning. Why is it good they're going into the ISA? Because they save tax. What else don't they put on the wall in a bank? Oh, you've got an interest rate here. It's brilliant. It's 1.44% or whatever. Yeah. Never do you see in the planning process that you're then going to pay tax on the interest anyway in your bank account. 20% of the source, and then the rest based on your tax rate, which you need to declare. Yeah. So this is what forced financial advisor. You can look across the whole spectrum.
Yeah.
You can't do that in isolation when somebody can only offer you certain bits, because they can't give you the full planning. So
there was another thing that I'd heard a long time ago, which put me off pensions for a bit. And one of the things I'd heard, this is around 20 years ago, was that pensions really, if you are a rich person, then you should have a pension as well, because you're rich. You don't have to worry about disposable income. And again, the investments that you can make per month, if you can afford £500, then great, just put that in there. Now, I don't know. I think, again, from standpoints and listening to other people, that's not necessarily the case. You can contribute from very, very little.
Yeah,
I think stakeholder pensions were set up in particular for that kind of reason.
You can contribute from a very small amount each month, but what it's interesting, when I touched on my age, I've always sometimes you find it difficult to get a pension for a financial advisor if you happen to be younger, but I'm very open-minded, and I eagerly and welcome young clients, even to the point of me saying, look, I'll set this thing up for you. The price would be completely minimal. Then we'll do some proper planning with them later on down the line, because I like to see them going in the right direction on that ladder. And once again, the cash flow modelling forms part of this, because they can actually see by doing this how much money they're going to make in the long term. Now, when you talk about it's only for rich people, I think a lot of the fear there is the fact that there could be two elements to it. One, someone might think they're going to lose their money. All right. Now, in the UK, pensions are protected 100% by a financial compensation scheme. When you talk about losing money, it might be like when people saw the markets go down now, and I think, oh, I've lost my money in my pension. Yeah. In fact, the market's gone down. Okay. So then it will go back up. So you've lost your money for a period of time. The only time you're going to lose your money is if you encash it. But this doesn't help if you're in retirement because you're taking money when it's less. But you're not going to lose the money. The other part of it is, which is based around someone's wealth, could be the fact that you can't get to the money until you're 55, right? So if you're 18 and you're working in the paper shop doing the paper round, all right, you're putting some money away now, but you then might need it for something. So it's not going to help that it's now been put somewhere till you're 55 and you can't access it before that. So this is where people then would favour something like the ISA because they're getting tax efficiencies and they can release the money when they want. Yeah. Okay. So I think that's probably where the fear came from, but also it's probably quite a big change for the slightly older people who just think about a pension as being something which appears like, oh, hello, Mr. Employer. I've worked here now. I've got my little prize cup and had a meal down the pub because it's my leaving day today. And now I've got my piece of paper with my pension. I mean, that's not too bad, is it? I mean, the world's changed. You're never going to get that again. But if it was just a case of you going to work and living in a robotic fashion and actually slaving away, you don't actually need to really think or plan, do you? You just get up and go and do the thing, and then you get paid at the end. Whereas now, people are getting much more creative with the types of work they can do. Yeah, it's going to be completely different post-lockdown as well. There's going to be more people being creative because now they've learned about. I mean, I've learned how to turn the webcam on this computer for starters. I mean, lots of exciting things been happening to me. I mean. So things will change and people will become more independent. But if you go down that road of becoming independent, you then need to embrace more responsibility. So whether it's like speaking to an accountant, sort your accounts out now. But a core part of it is then sorting your own retirement plan out. Yeah. Because you then can't just go back and say, hello, government, sorry, I couldn't be bothered to do it. I spent all my money in the pub or something, and now I just want a state pension. The government will help you, give you £168 a week. There we go. It's not too bad, is it?
Yeah. Again, one of the big things I feel has been a long-lasting impression, because there's still a lot of clients that I meet today that have this, is the endowments. Because what happened in the endowment market, back in the 90s, again, people are thinking, okay, right, so the endowments were actually played on the stock market. My pension's played on the stock market. There's a very strong chance. Now, from what you've told everyone, is that it's all protected. And because it's all protected, to a certain degree, the government gives a lot of protections there. So, and on top of that, you've also got protection from Pension Ombudsman Service. There is a regulator oversees everything. Which is really handy. It's beautiful. The protection for the consumer is there. So that should give a lot more confidence. But again, it's down to how things are presented and getting the information out, so it gets rid of a lot of misconceptions.
Yeah, what we need with the word protection, what you've got to be careful of is a few years ago. When you're in a situation and the markets are performing exceptionally well, you get product providers start to create things like a protected fund, which are very expensive, and they will give you protection. Protection in the same way you get protection on your state pension, as in it's going to pay you this and it will grow by this. Okay. Now, you've got protection against losing your money if a company or investment house goes bust, which is great. And then this is the type of protection which we we're familiar with this in the UK because we're in a very modern financial environment. It's like you never would. It's when you buy something or purchase something, you've got protection. Okay, so it's that type of protection. What people might not necessarily be prepared for is you've got price fluctuation in the pension, and if you're not doing regular reviews, or you've decided to pick your own stocks, you could be in a situation where there's not enough diverse portfolio that you could really lose a lot of money, and it could be down for a long time. Yeah. So then you go, oh, sorry, I wouldn't mind having my money back. I've lost it. And then say, well, you haven't lost it, have you? It's just reduced in price. It's now worth 10 quid or whatever. So you haven't lost it. You can have your 10 quid back if you want. Or you can wait till it comes up. I mean, this is drastic talking. But this is all based around the financial review process where you make sure you're in a bucket of different assets, which when one part goes down, another part goes up, and it gives you a slow, steady return. So that's another core part of a review process. And that's why you need to do that in order to make money over inflation. Okay. Now, the other part is you sometimes get clients who've picked their own investments using a portal on the internet or something like that. Now, that's when things can get quite messy because if you think about the type of investment you would get for a financial advisor, there's going to be about 90 plus different investments in it all over the place. Yeah. Now, sometimes you get like a chat with someone down the pub and, oh, yeah, I've got a really good one. I picked, what did you do? I picked this one and this one, this one. Okay, so you've just picked 3 investments. And by the way, they're all in the same area. Yeah. So this is when you get people losing a lot of money. And this is where you get people who could be making a lot as well because it's going up, down, into a big tangent. Yeah. Yeah. But if you got it at the wrong time, they could be sat down the pub for a year or 2 years saying, oh, it's still down. What am I going to do? Yeah. Because it's not balancing itself out. So there's different areas to it. And it's really about the ongoing reviews. It's about being able to access the appropriate investments, making sure they're widely diversified. And also there's a massive cost difference between going to a financial advisor and buying something as a client, because if you buy it yourself as a client online and choose the investment you want, you're going to pay a different price for it than you would if you went for a financial advisor because of economies of scale. But it's the last part on that is there was horror stories in the press about certain investment. Actually, I don't think I'm going to say the name on here. Or
you can if you want, but you don't have to.
Yeah, it was on the front of a newspaper and stuff, and many clients bought it because it was such a popular investment. And in my world as a financial advisor, you also get given information well before it gets into the public space. And I remember writing out to all my clients and saying, look, we've looked underneath the bonnet of this investment, and there's a few areas in there which we're not too keen on. My recommendation is to come out of this now and go into something else. Yeah. About a year and a half later, it's on the front of the newspaper because, and once again, people hadn't lost their money, but it had been soft closed, it had been locked, so they couldn't get to their money. Yeah, until they unlocked the suspension again because it was plummeting. Right, probably all right now, but doesn't help if you want to go into retirement and you've decided to pick your own investments and you thought, oh, it'd be lovely just to put all my money in this one thing. Not good. Yeah, so there's lots of elements to it. Now, we can look at the guaranteed side of things as well, because look, if you really wanted to go for guarantees, you need to sacrifice the ability to earn, to get more income. So it's a sacrifice. You can be in the markets. The more the market fluctuates, the more money you can make.
Which is, of course, your attitude to risk, and that's why you should have a review. How often would you recommend reviews? Is it yearly, every 2 years, every 6 months, or is it just down to the individual client themselves?
If something, legally we'd do it yearly for sure. Legally you have to do it yearly. Now, What?
Well, that's okay, because that's answering the question. So legally, a year. You've just answered the question. So legally, every year, having a financial review of your pension, that's a good thing, because if the pension is not going in the right direction or not appreciating fast enough to hit the target, you're in a position that you can make the right decisions based upon sound financial advice to say, okay, this is what we've got to do, and you can minimize the impact of any negative impact on you.
Yeah, you can, and it's just about making these fine adjustments, and it's not.
Yeah. It's not that hard.
It's not. It's not that hard, because I'm in such a position of power, because the fact the financial advisors got the license to do their job and to advise clients, they're given access to such a wider range of financial instruments to help and support clients. All of them are a discount in price. So if you've got a price discount, you've got more opportunity for growth. But the space to get the investments and this wide opportunity for growth is just absolutely huge compared to what would happen if you wanted to get it as what's deemed as a retail client, because the product providers and the investment providers don't want to sell anything to a retail client, because they don't want the client to be confused about what it is and make a complaint. But the difference in what you can access as a retail client and for a financial advisor is just massively different. Now, what many clients do if they don't want to engage, or they just maybe do a Google search and find out something, is they're just taking, or sometimes with a different pension provider, they might call the pension provider and say, what have you got as an option? They might just take a very basic option, and then people will probably understand this, but they take an annuity. Yeah? Very easy. Oh, you got an annuity, lovely. So that's great. And how's this annuity work? We're going to pay you this much money till you pass away. Brilliant. What do I need to do? Just sign the form and do it. Great. It's good, isn't it? But then when you look at the annuity rates, they haven't been any good for a long, long time.
No.
But they still have their use. You can use that in financial planning. You can have someone's money, and you can have some of it in a portfolio and some of it in annuity. And you could move to annuity later on down the line as well. So there's lots of elements to it, but it's about exploring that with someone who's got the tools and functionality to do it. And any independent financial advisor on face value should be able to do that. But if you try and do it yourself, you try and speak to a product provider, you're very, very limited on what you can do. So it might be the right option for you, but you don't know until you've explored everything. And an independent financial advisor is not a salesperson, because they can give you anything you want. So it's not like going into the bank and I've got to say, right, I think you should have this because ours does. If you wanted the thing, which was easy to get from a product provider, you would get a recommendation report saying, look, let's speak to a product provider and do it. Yeah. So you're getting the best of both worlds.
And again, from many moons ago, the way how it used to be when independent financial advisors would be knocking on doors and life insurance and stuff like that, it was where it was. Times have changed because regulation has changed. So
Correct.
It's now based upon advice, proper advice. So there is no hard sell. There never is.
It's
based on the needs of the client. And the amount of times that people feel that, oh, right, you're going to get commission, you're going to get a fee, you're going to get this. Well, that may very well be true. But the reality is we are held to a higher level of account than even doctors are, because we're regularly reviewed in depth. Our files are super checked. So it's always worthwhile having, a review, whoever you're having that review with, whichever financial advisor. So from that basis, what I'm going to say is, Paul, how can people get in contact with you?
And this is where my technology cuts out.
Okay.
You can help me now, because I can give you the remember, I've only been in the internet space for 6 weeks, so you can I can publicize my telephone number and my email address here.
Yeah,
but I think what potentially will be even more streamlined for people is they can contact me via my portal here on the Facebook, or they can go through the link which you can provide them in order to ask me a question. But the way I work is once again very modern, and it's not like going to see a solicitor or something where we're going to charge you per hour. I don't want to work in that way, because I want people to feel free to explore all options without feeling like there's a clock ticking before they have to start emptying their bank account out. So all of this process is entirely free. And it involves looking at a financial plan, answering any questions you may have, and then bullet pointing a plan of action as to do this, and you're going to be in a better place, tax efficiency wise, cost wise, etc., functionality wise. And by the way, that's incorporated my fee, which is transparent, and that's what it's about. And it's not. And when you talked about people knocking on the door, gone are those days, because I even need to remember to keep calling myself a financial planner instead now, and that's what it is. It's an ongoing plan.
Yeah, and again, if you're watching this on repeat, because again, with live, we know that there's going to be people out there that can't watch this for a long period of time, but they can watch it a little bit later on. I'm more than happy for leaving the links in the comments. By all means, please feel free to get in contact with Paul Short from, what was it called? Black.
Yeah, that's fine. So I'm part of a worldwide group called the Black Tower Financial Management. Yeah, and we've been helping clients now for 30 years, and we've got 14 offices around the world. Now, something which the sad man does get very excited about is I've also got something called a passporting license, which means I can help clients.
That is good.
That's very, very rare with financial advisor, and that's why I wanted to be part of a Black Tower group. But our office is in the UK, and I'm based in Woking and Southampton. And I've got many clients across London, but to be fair, I'm happy to travel. I look after my clients no matter where they are. It's about that ongoing relationship. But the group is Black Tower Financial Management. But please contact me directly via the Facebook, or I can leave my email address or telephone number via Hadi for his site.
And again, Paul, thank you so much for taking the time out, joining me on this, imparting your knowledge. Anyone who's listening to this, do remember something. One of the big differences I learned about financial planning versus mortgages is that mortgages is very transactional. You know, it's based upon your ability to be able to, if you can afford it, this is the mortgage, and these are the lenders that will be able to help you based upon what you need to borrow. That's not the case with financial planning. It's a very holistic approach, and it takes a very long-term view. So hence why I'm saying that if you're going to go down this road, understand that's not I want this and it comes straight off the shelf and it's going to work for me. No, that's why you need to have a proper review on a regular basis as well, because you want to have your long-term goals met too. Paul, thank you so much for joining me on this one. I'll be sharing this out on multiple platforms, and fingers crossed, whatever takes place. And again, tomorrow I will be doing a Facebook Live for myself on the group page, which will deal with semi-professional sports people and independent trade workers who need day one protection. So if you're in mixed martial arts, wrestling, boxing, if you're a carpenter, a builder, any of those kind of people, I'll be more than happy to guide you through and protect your income, which is the most important thing. So thank you guys. I'll see you guys tomorrow. And Paul, thank you again for being part of this. Take care.
Thank you.
See you later.
Bye-bye.